Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to make a bow tie. So let's get started. You will need a pattern to start off. You'll also need scissors, a pencil, some pins, and of course, whatever fabric you want. So first, you'll need 4 layers of fabric, just like that. You'll place your pattern on top of your 4 layers of fabric and then pin the pattern down. That way when you're cutting, you don't get anything miscut. Then just cut out your pattern. If you have difficulty getting around your pins, tracing over it with a pencil will allow you to pull that pattern off and still cut without getting that pattern or the pins in the way. There we go. So you'll have 4 pieces that look exactly the same. Next, you'll take your pieces, 2 of them, and put them right sides together. So the side that the pattern is on, you want those 2 sides touching, and then pin at the long end. And just do that twice because you've got 4 pieces, and then we're going to sew along that short end, and I usually just line up the pattern with the foot of my sewing machine. And just to make sure it's super sturdy, I like to go over it twice. Then I pull out my pins and trim off any of that excess thread. Perfect. So then straighten out that piece that you've now sewn together. You can see the right sides are on the right side. And then I iron one of them over to one side and the other over to the other side. So after it's ironed, you can see how that looks. Then you'll have 2 very long pieces. Again, you'll put your right sides together and pin it all the way around. I always start in the middle just to make sure that it ends up perfectly on top, the first piece on top of the second piece. And then I just pin all the way across, just on one side of the fabric. One million pins later, that's what you look like. So I always start with one end and I sew just across that wide end. Again, I line up the seam with the foot of my sewing machine. Then I go all the way around one end of that pattern, well, almost all the way around. And as I'm sewing, I pull out the pins most of the time. So once I get pretty close to that middle seam, I stop sewing and I do a back stitch, and then I come back forward a little bit. Just like that. And I leave a gap, maybe about 3 or 4 inches, and then I start sewing on that same side. I do a back stitch, and then I start forward again. That gap will come in handy later. So then I finish on that one side, just sewing all the way around that pattern. And then I just do it again. So first sewing across that one edge, and then coming back around and sewing all the way across. This time I don't leave a gap, so only one side of the pattern gets a gap when you're sewing. The other side you just sew straight all the way across. There we go. So, first things first, gotta get rid of some of those corners. Since we're going to be turning this inside out, we have to get rid of that extra fabric or it'll create a big bunch and you won't get a sharp corner like how a bow tie has. Same thing with some of the other areas where fabric will bunch up. I just create little triangles and then I cut them out, and that just reduces the amount of fabric that will be stuck on the inside of your bow tie. Just like that. do the same pretty much at every joint, and then I also do 2 extra little triangles on the top and bottom of the rounded part of the bow tie. About to show you that after I finish that second half. There we go. So now on the bottom and top of that rounded edge, just take out 2 more corners. It just gives a much smoother finish and smoother appearance of the bow tie at the end. And once we get all those cut, we'll move on to the next step. Cool. So now we have to turn it inside out. Well, it'll be right side in. This is where the pencil comes in handy. So when you pull your fabric apart, you can see that it starts to let you push it through, but if you use the back end of your pencil, you can shimmy the fabric up, and it makes it so much easier to turn it inside out. Then you pull your pencil out and just grab onto that fabric, and it just turns itself right side out or right side in a lot more easy. So I'll just show you again with the other side. Shimmy the fabric on, and then you can just pull it right out of that hole. So now the bow tie is the right way, just the little bits are still stuck inside. So I use that pencil to sort of shimmy all the fabric to where it's supposed to be. You can see after I flattened it out a little bit, it looks a lot more like a bow tie. It's still too round, we will have to press it, but it at least gives you a bit more of an idea. So let's take it over to the ironing board and get those pieces flattened out. First you'll need an iron, of course, and then what I do is I just roll the fabric out with my fingertips and then press the parts that I've already rolled, and it just lets it flatten right out to the seam. So I pull back with my fingers and then roll it forward so that the seam is exactly flat. And I do the same for that 2B part. There we go. So now you can see how ironing it really does make a difference. It's a lot flatter, it's a lot more clean. So that's how I do it. I pull it back and then roll it forward. Then give it a little press. Do the same for the other side. And now you're left with this opening. So what I do is I try and fold the opening to match it up to the seams that are already made, and then I press it flat. And after I've done that, I hand sew that little bit just so that the seam is invisible. If you do it with your sewing machine, that's fine too, because it will be under the collar of the shirt that you wear it with. But if you hand sew it, it just leaves it a little bit cleaner and it looks nice, even not when it's being used. That's just a speed video of me hand sewing it, but there you can see that you can't really see the stitches, so it just makes it a little bit cleaner. And now, time to tie it up. So, as you can see, I'm using my phone to tell me how to tie a bow tie. And getting it all done up. And maybe I haven't done it too many times before, so give me a second to just figure out how to tie this up. Once I get it tied, how convenient, the red ended up right in the middle. So there you go. That's what it looks like in the end. I actually made another one a couple of days ago just to test it out, and this one I tried with 2 different fabrics. So what's kind of cool about that is it gives you a little bit of an extra detail. You can see a little bit of that blue behind the bow. So that's pretty much it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or a comment, and please subscribe if you haven't already. I put out a new video every Tuesday and Friday. See you in the next one.